We emphasized and still emphasize this point that the ceasefire in Lebanon is an inseparable part of any ceasefire and any final agreement to end the war. In response to the ceasefire violation by the Hezbollah terrorist organization and the firing toward northern communities, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and I ordered the IDF to attack terrorist targets in the Dahia neighborhood in Beirut.
As Tehran suddenly freezes its backchannels and goes silent, is Trump now scrambling to save his Iran talks just as the diplomatic clock runs down? With Mujtaba's camp freezing backchannels and demanding a full IDF pullout from Gaza and Lebanon, is Iran trying to rewrite the price of any deal with Washington? When Trump admits, "I think we've been talking too much," is that a sign of quiet panic, as he pivots into damage control mode while Tehran shuts the door? As Trump argues that going silent would be very good, is his own strategy of pressure without dialogue finally facing its moment of truth against Iran's hard line? Is Trump now facing his biggest Iran test yet, with talk stalling just as Netanyahu widens the Lebanon front and drags the White House deeper into the crisis? As Israel widens its assault in Lebanon, Tehran has frozen backchannel diplomacy with Washington, signaling that military moves on the border now have direct costs at the negotiating table. On June 1st, Tasnim News reported that Iran has halted all indirect contacts with the United States, abruptly pausing message exchanges that had been running through regional mediators. Those reports said Tehran stopped passing texts and messages via mediators in protest at Israel's strikes in Lebanon, which Iran views as breaches of understandings around the ceasefire. According to Tasnim, Iran has declared it will not resume talks and exchanges of texts until its conditions are met, effectively tying the fate of diplomacy to events on the Lebanese and Gazan fronts. Those conditions reportedly include an immediate halt to Israeli operations in both Gaza and Lebanon and a full IDF withdrawal from occupied areas, demands that go far beyond narrow deconfliction. Iran portrays Israel's Lebanon strikes as violations of a broader regional ceasefire understanding, arguing that these attacks undermine the very framework that made talks with Washington possible. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump said he had not been informed that Iran had frozen talks with the United States. In an interview with NBC News, Trump suggested Washington may have been talking too much with Tehran, hinting that he now prefers a period of calculated silence to constant exchanges. Trump said, and I quote, "I think we've been talking too much if you want to know the truth. I think going silent would be very good, and that could be for a long time. It doesn't mean we're going to go and start dropping bombs all over there. We'll just go silent. We'll keep the blockade. I think I can wait as long as they want. They're losing a fortune." Unquote. Tasnim reported that Iran and allied groups in the resistance axis are now preparing responses to Israeli strikes, suggesting a coordinated pushback beyond just diplomatic moves. Measures under review reportedly include the possible closure of the Strait of Hormuz, using control over this vital oil choke point as leverage against Israel and its backers. The same report mentioned potential activity at other maritime choke points, including the Bab al-Mandab Strait, raising the specter of pressure on multiple global shipping routes at once. Iranian officials frame these options as tools to pressure Israel into respecting ceasefire terms, arguing that only credible regional risks will force Tel Aviv to dial down its operations. All of this comes after Iran accused Israel of trying to destroy ongoing diplomatic efforts, claiming that recent moves in Lebanon are aimed at killing even the faintest chance of a political solution.
In such a situation, and under circumstances in which the opposing side constantly changes its positions, puts forward new or contradictory demands, and issues different, conflicting, and inconsistent media messages, it is natural that this situation leads to a prolongation of the negotiation process. To this must be added the disruptive actor that has always obstructed any process aimed at reducing tensions in our region, namely the Zionist regime. One of the clear reasons for the escalation of the crimes of the Zionist regime in Lebanon in recent days can be nothing other than the undermining of any possible prospect for diplomatic processes to lead to some form of improvement in the situation. And this responsibility again lies with the United States. We cannot view the United States and the Zionist regime as two separate and independent actors operating in isolation from one another. One of the obstacles to negotiations with the current U.S. administration is precisely the frequent changes in positions and the contradictory and conflicting statements. There are, of course, different ways to describe these shifts in positions. Naturally, whenever one side changes its position, the other side must also apply its own views and considerations accordingly. It is not possible for one side to repeatedly introduce new demands or positions while expecting the other side simply to accept them. This situation undoubtedly disrupts the process and makes the path longer. This is the minimum that can be said about the outcome of this approach in negotiations. We emphasized and still emphasize this point that the ceasefire in Lebanon is an inseparable part of any ceasefire and any final agreement to end the war. These U.S. actions are not merely violations of the ceasefire, they constitute an act of aggression and a violation of Article 2, Paragraph 4 of the United Nations Charter. They entitle and authorize us, in line with the right of self-defense, to undertake corresponding defensive measures. Today, we explicitly announced that we targeted the source of the aggression. The Kuwaiti government is obliged under international law and under relevant international conventions to provide consular access for the Islamic Republic of Iran. Our citizens' rights are fully clear under international legal regulations, and our clear expectation from the Kuwaiti authorities is that they clarify the situation as soon as possible and provide consular access from our embassy to detained Iranian citizens.
On June 1st, Hezbollah released footage of a drone strike on an Israeli Iron Dome launcher, turning the attack into a public message aimed well beyond the battlefield. The group said the strike targeted the Biranit military base near the Lebanon border on May 27th, framing the hit as part of its wider campaign against Israeli positions. The video showed a fiber-optic guided FPV drone tracking the target before impact, suggesting a carefully directed strike rather than a random attack. Hezbollah claimed the attack destroyed an Iron Dome system deployed inside the base, raising fresh questions about how vulnerable the launcher was when the drone reached it. The group said the strike used an explosive-laden suicide drone against the launcher, underlining the kind of low-cost, high-impact tactics now defining this confrontation. The Iran-backed group claimed this was the seventh Iron Dome hit during May alone, a count that Hezbollah is clearly using to showcase momentum and pressure. Hezbollah claimed Babel drones destroyed 2 Neymar vehicles in Debil town, adding another layer to its broader drone war against Israeli armor and supply lines. The group also said missiles targeted Israeli troop gatherings inside Kauza, suggesting that manpower concentrations are being pulled into the same strike pattern. Hezbollah said an Israeli anti-drone radar was destroyed near Khalat al-Sharkif, a claim that would matter because blinding detection systems can open the door to more attacks. Hezbollah also claimed a precision missile destroyed an Israeli vehicle in Debin, showing that the group is mixing drone strikes with targeted missile fire. 2 missiles were also fired toward Israeli military infrastructure in Safed, keeping pressure on rear positions that Israel may have hoped were less exposed. The group claimed suicide drones targeted Israeli troops in Maroun al-Raz, pointing to a pattern of repeated and layered attacks across the northern front. This comes amid reports that Israel was caught off guard by Hezbollah's new strategy, with the IDF now facing a more adaptive and unpredictable opponent. Hebrew Channel 13 said the IDF was surprised by the scale and intensity of the attacks, suggesting that the recent wave of fire may have outpaced Israel's expectations. The report linked the escalation to Israel's ground push north of the Litani River, implying that Hezbollah's retaliation is directly tied to developments on the front line. The wave of attacks also comes as the US reportedly proposed a new roadmap to de-escalate the war in Lebanon, raising the question of whether diplomacy can still slow a fight that is clearly heating up. A US official told Al Jazeera that Marco Rubio held separate talks with Joseph Aoun and Benjamin Netanyahu. The proposal calls for Hezbollah to halt attacks on Israel in exchange for Israel avoiding further military escalation. A US official said the plan is designed to achieve gradual de-escalation and an eventual cessation of hostilities. The US reportedly placed responsibility for the fighting on Hezbollah and accused it of following Iran's direction. A US official claimed Iran is prolonging the conflict to position itself as a potential mediator, Al Jazeera reported. A Lebanese official told Axios that the IRGC is encouraging Hezbollah to escalate in order to gain leverage against the US. The official alleged Tehran views the Lebanon front as a bargaining chip in broader negotiations with Washington. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun reportedly tried to advance the US proposal through talks with Parliament Speaker Nabi Berri. However, a US official described the speaker's response to the proposal as evasive and disappointing. According to the official, Berri said he would guarantee Hezbollah's commitment to a ceasefire arrangement. Berri reportedly insisted that Israel must stop firing first before any truce can realistically take hold. Rubio's diplomatic push reportedly intensified over the last 48 hours amid fears of a wider regional escalation.